Welcome to Tuesday Live, the Sunday talk show right here on the Rise News channel. With me, Professor Anthony Kila, a Professor of Strategy and Development, is an Institute Director at Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies, as well as Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director. Enough is enough. And we've got these two great people here with us. I think the first story, we've talked about many things today. We've talked about MPOX, we've talked about the presidential jet seizure, we've talked about the economy, inflation numbers, and we've talked about myriad of issues and bad governance protesters and all of that. So we'll pretty much start with the former U.S. President Donald Trump recently showcased everyday grocery items like instant coffee and sugary cereals while discussing rising costs for essentials such as food, car insurance, and housing. His remark came after President Joe Biden's unexpected exit from the re-election race and the endorsement of Kamala Harris. Trump defended his campaign-style antics against critics, asserting he is more composed than his fiery rhetoric might suggest, and expressed openness to having Nikki Haley join his campaign trail. In the event that she chose to support him ahead of November's election, Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor and Trump's latest GOP rival, ended her campaign following Trump's Super Tuesday victories. Although she initially refrained from endorsing Trump, she has since voiced her support and spoken at the Republican National Convention.
I just want to win for the country. Some people say, oh, why don't you be nice? But they're not nice to me. They want to put me in prison, just so you understand. They tell me I should be nice. They want to put me in prison. It's never happened before in the history of our country. I did nothing wrong.
And would you consider having Nikki Haley on the campaign trail with you?
Sure. I think that we've done very well. I think that we're hitting a nerve. I think this is a different kind of a race. All we have to do is define our opponent as being a communist or a socialist or somebody that's going to destroy our country. I think I'm doing a very calm campaign. I mean, we're here. There's no shouting. Now, you'll say he ranted and raved, and not you. But some of you will say, he ranted and raved. I didn't rant and rave. I'm a very calm person, believe it or not. If I wasn't, I probably wouldn't be around anymore, Probably wouldn't be around. But no, I think I appreciate her advice. I have to do it my way. I ran against her, and I did it my way. People said I should maybe do it a different way. But do I regret debating Biden? So it was his request. He said we should get the debates on early. And I was willing. Don't forget, I got CNN, I got Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. They're not Trump people. They wanted to have a debate where their mics are turned off when the other person's answering the question. They gave me every single thing that I couldn't approve, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. So they got the debate on their term. About whether or not the debate should have happened would have been a better question to ask of Joe Biden, because had he not done the debate, he would still be running for president and people would be hiding him.
In the meantime, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris appeared together at an event for the first time since Thursday, since she exited the 2024 race for the White House and she replaced him as the Democratic presidential nominee. Biden and Harris spoke at an event at Maryland Community College to talk about the administration's work to lower the cost of prescription drugs, which they praised each other. Harris, who spoke first, said it's an eternal and great honor to serve with Biden, whom she called an extraordinary human being, an American, and a leader.
And of course, I could speak all afternoon about the person that I am standing on this stage with. Our extraordinary President Joe Biden. And he's going to speak in a minute, but there's a lot of love in this room for our president. And I think it's for many, many reasons, including few leaders in our nation have done more on so many issues, including to expand access to affordable health care than Joe Biden.
Okay, so we've got the panel here, and we'll just go straight back and welcome everybody once again, and welcome Yemi Adamolekun. So we'll just go straight to it. We'll take it from the very top, and I'm happy Trump was talking about inflation in America. I want to tie with inflation figures in Nigeria. Professor Kila, I'm going to come into you on this. For the first time since 2022 December, we had a little drop in the inflation figures. Some people are touting quickly that's because of the harvest season. should we be excited or should we still be worried that we're out of the woods yet? You want to talk about that? And also tie it to the American inflation, because cost of living is always a big problem everywhere in the world.
Well, let's start from Nigeria, go to America, then come back to Nigeria.
Yeah.
Whatever causes us to be happy, let's be happy.
Okay.
Let's not spoil it immediately. Let's just be happy. A closer look would make one worry to the extent that it has gone down, but we haven't seen what we did to make it go down. You know, that is where when you're rational about things. So let's not be rational. Because if we get rational about this, we're going to worry because we cannot pinpoint. A good example for people to understand what I mean is this. If you want to emulate or record a model, you must be able to see what was wrong, what was done, and how they got it right. So that's the way you take best practice from that. We haven't got any of such on the table. It is possible that it's harvest, but it's possible that somebody said, we just got used to bad times. And at some point, the system will adjust itself. There is a concern, and I say this, you know, not to be a spoil sport, but I say this because that is what we're trained to do in economics. We have to be careful to make sure that people are not giving up and reducing their demand. Because it is possible that if you can't afford it, you just stop buying it. And if you stop buying it, the demand goes down. And if the demand goes down, the price goes down. That might affect inflation as well. So we have to be very careful what kind of reduction in inflation. But if you look at the curve, I don't want to bop you, but at some point, you will soon notice if you have a plateau on the curve at that price, or you're still having oscillations in that price. So we have to look at it that way. Back to America, we must be very careful when we compare these things. It is true that America has had inflation, but their inflation stems from what has happened post-COVID. And it's a global thing they had to deal with. We cannot compare in knowledge and conscience the two kind of inflations. I worry about people's intelligence and their integrity when some people go about saying what we have is part of the global crisis. That is a very dangerous thing to say. You see, unfortunately, partisan politics affect people's mind a lot, and that's a worrisome thing. I've had cause to say, you know, of all things that man has invented, partisan politics is one of the worst. Because it makes people say things.
It's delusional.
It makes people say things they ought not to be saying at all. Yeah. And it makes some people delusional. And it makes some people believe them, deluding themselves the truth. Our kind of inflation, our kind of economic crisis, it has nothing to do with the global situation as much as a nation can stand on its own. Obviously, anything that affects the world affects you. But there are some things that are peculiar to you because what leads to it is different. Every child is at one point silly or so, but the families you come from affects the kind of silliness of your child as well. Let's put it that way. You know,
Okay.
if you don't have a television in your house, you can't break the remote control. Just to get an example.
Okay, I mean, I'm coming to you, Yemi here. I want you to, you know, talk to us about inflation because we all were really, really sad when we started to see the inflation numbers go up. At a point in this country, we've seen over close to 150% to 200% in real terms of how food used to cost. Nigeria's become a sachet economy today. So should we be happy about this?
I mean, to his point, I think in real terms is what does it mean for a Nigerian's ability to buy stuff? I mean, that was a context, I think, an earlier conversation we had about the minimum wage. So if you adjust the minimum wage, which is 70,000 for inflation, I think it comes to 11,000 naira or something funny like that. So even and that's the conversation beyond the numbers, what does it mean for people's lives? And if you take his point that, does it mean that people have just stopped buying stuff? So if you can't afford rice, you stop buying rice, you stop buying yam. One of the refrains during the August protests were people talking about even the price of gari. And how gari is now, even as expensive, is almost a staple because it's what people can afford. And I think that really is the conversation. And that's what this administration hasn't done a very good job of, in my view, in communicating. Because if you focus on inflation is 33% today, 32%, 30%, 50%, whatever the percentage is, what does that mean for the lives of Nigerians and what they're able to do? And that's the current conversations around what we're calling the hunger protest. Yeah.
So let's talk about protesters. I like the word when you talked about the hunger protest. you have a lot of bona fide in this regards. We're talking about 1,000 of them still in government custody. In fact, we've not even sorted out NSAS protesters. You still have a couple of them in prison.
Yeah.
So what's your take on this one? About 1,000 of them. Amnesty International is speaking and talking really tough around it.
The challenge, I mean, I think it's Chidiong Dinkalu that always makes the point that we're a country that does not want to count and does not know how to count. And you take that from everything from a population census, which we don't have, to our challenges with our elections and how we count or don't count.
And the salaries of lawmakers.
And
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Indeed, exactly. So the range of our inability to count, unfortunately, comes out in situations like this. So NSAS, I think for the 3rd anniversary, I believe it was, one of the things that AIE and a few organizations did was to send people to all the prisons in Lagos to try and figure out who was in jail from NSAS. And the findings were, as expected, quite
shocking
and just very sad. One, we don't have a central database. So 2, as we know, you can be picked up. The same way you can be in police custody and nobody will know is the same way you can be in jail and just be like known. Like, what was your offense? What were you charged? Or have you been charged? Have you been taken to court? So you have people who are in jail and haven't been taken to court at all. Been in jail 2 years, 3 years, and haven't been taken to court. So we find, okay, if you are arresting me and keeping me in jail, can you at least charge me with a crime? And that's when you now go to the other side of our prison systems, where you have, I think it's 70 or some odd number, that 70% of people in jail are waiting trial.
Yeah.
So for the sake of argument, I commit a crime. The maximum jail time for that crime is 2 years. I've already been in jail for 5. And again, it's one of the demands in as part of this last protest.
Yeah.
Like, you have people who are waiting trial, but they're in jail and have spent more time than if they were found guilty. Can you not just release all of them as a starting point, that assume they're guilty and free them? And so that therein lies the challenge, that if people are not being charged, people are kept. They've now arraigned the 1,000 protesters. So let's now begin to have a conversation about what was their offense. They protested? Is that a crime? And meanwhile, you have police officers who are using live bullets. I'm not sure that any one of them are part of this 1,000.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So,
in fact, they keep denying that they use live bullets. In fact, the IGP also did deny that. And also the case of the police officer that was miraculously
came back to life. But you know, we pray this much.
We pray. So he was dead before, but he resurrected.
Hallelujah.
And what bullet touched him? It wasn't live bullet. Rubber bullets,
yes,
probably.
But certainly. And also to the point that
nobody was killed, just like NSAS.
The military actually confirmed that live bullets were used.
Okay.
So you have your security agencies not able to get their stories right, as we did with NSAS as well.
As it is, they'll probably deny that the military never confirmed that live bullets were used. So it's the police. As regards this,
well, protest, I think somehow,
too many people in Nigerian cells and jails.
Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, I don't know, but let's take it this way. And this is because the people who allow people to be in jail are the police and the judiciary. There's a tendency in Nigeria to make things appear complicated.
Exactly.
I am for simplifying it. 2 people allow people to be in jail: police and judiciary. We just need to look at them. The correctional people keep them there unless they say they lost their file or something. But, you know, the ones that take them there, the ones that can get them in or out, are police and judiciary. I think some people need to sit down somewhere and say, how do we ensure that things don't go left and let them go right, if that is what we want to? It's a mindset thing to understand that. I also think we need to find a way to say that it is illegal to arrest people for protesting.
Yeah.
I say that, but I'm also very conscious
but
to
why
say...
do we need to say that, though? Is that not a given?
That is true, but sometimes you need to say, because it's not happening. We need to agree, you know, like a new social contract, to say we agree that protesting is a sad but legitimate thing, but it's not a crime to protest. And that whoever detains somebody for protesting is breaking the law. I think that's where we need to get to at some point. But by the same token, we also need to be very clear that it is illegal to loot, to burn, and to destroy things while protesting. And by that same token, we should also declare as a people that it is illegal to shoot people with live ammunition during protest. I think, you see, those are conversations that we can have knowing fully well that we don't know who's going to protest tomorrow. The problem we have is that when we deal with national issues, we do not know how to reason in abstract and with fairness in mind. Most people reason from the position where they are today. And if we want a just society, as some people have taught us, we need to be able to cover ourselves with a veil of ignorance for that moment, not knowing who the bell might toll for tomorrow. There is, and this concerns me, you see, behind the law, I think you get to a certain age, you start reasoning that way. The fact that the people in government cannot look at those young people protesting and thinking those could be my children. There's something inhumane about it. That no matter what they do.
No, with due respect, but the people in government today,
Yes.
in 2012, tweeted by saying, police do not shoot protesters, they are our children.
That is it.
So between 2012 and 2024,
What has
question is
gone wrong?
what changed?
And also to your point about we need to agree that it's not an offense to protest.
Yes.
When the anti-protesters were protesting, nobody needed to tell them that.
Yeah.
We didn't need to agree.
Yeah.
Because it was understood that these are our people.
So that shows mischief.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just
Precisely.
self-serving mischief.
Yeah.
There's some mischievous things that
But you were also talking about the fact
Yes.
that we should get to a point where we say it's not criminal to protest, but you had a government that criminalized the protest before the protest happened itself.
Precisely.
Well, I think those are the kinds that we need to talk about. And here, who should be talking about it? Definitely the media, definitely the people, but also the representatives, the legislators.
Let's talk about
They're
those
busy.
ones. Let's talk
They're
about those ones.
busy.
21 million naira for running costs. And you expect those ones to talk about the
Exactly,
protest?
they're busy.
But you say, that's the point. What we should be saying is that you expect them to talk, the more reason why they should be talking about it. At the moment, and some of these people are my friends, but I've told them privately, so let's say it publicly. They're overpaid and they're not giving value for the money they're giving. For what we're paying them, for at least on paper, which is even more in practice, they should be all over the place. But again, I repeat, if people don't do the right thing, you need to teach them. You need to assume that...
No, but most of them, before the protest, collectively told you that it was not good for you to protest, that the government was doing everything within its power to solve all the problems.
Well, I think citizens should remember that when they want to vote next time. And maybe some people should remind them.
You think the people control how voting finally goes in the end?
If I don't be a nihilist, at some point, we need to set the thing right. Look, the way the world works is this.
With what happened with Beavers?
But that's the thing. So what do we do? Nothing. Look, I want people to know something.
But till today, we've not done electoral reforms.
Well, we need to ask for it. We need to push for it.
It's a work in progress.
And we need to keep pushing for it. We see, people need to know, and she's right, work in progress is the right word. Yeah. We need to know what we need, and we need to keep saying it. I want people to know something. When you go to your churches or your mosque, and the clerics talk, they know you're sinners, they're viewers. It is their role to say it, and then somehow we hope it will happen. We need to keep talking about it. Otherwise, if we just say, they've not done electoral reform, Beavers does not work, what do? Shoot ourselves? No, we're going to do that. We need to point out what is wrong and, where possible, offer the solution. I believe in the people, not government. I believe that we need to take on. But there's also something, and here maybe we should turn back to prayers. Because even those we had who we thought are very different from when they got there, let's call out names. The elected members of the Labour Party have not stood out in any way. So there must be something inside that place that changes their mind. And we need to factor that in.
What were the origin of those members?
Well, I don't know them. I was never really interested in them individually.
You don't know, most of them were dejected from the first two political parties.
Here we go.
I never expected anything to change in the first place. So they were the rejects of either APC or PDP.
So we should say what's from them. But I said it, so the individuals need to look at things.
So we were doomed either way.
No,
So
we don't do doom. We don't do gloom and doom.
The optimism of Rufai Hussein is something that can make someone fly.
I'm coming. No,
let's go.
it's realism actually. So I'm coming to you about the senators and 21 million what they earn.
So I think that what we need to talk about is not necessarily, it's to make a demand on the clarity. So I think it was Shehu Soni. I mean, obviously we've always known that there's something funny about the National Assembly. And let's also be clear. The National Assembly's budget is less than 200 billion. I think NDDC's budget is 1 trillion or whatever it is. Yeah. So in terms of money and real terms, it's not that it's a huge amount of money in that sense. But it's important because they are the representatives of the people. So they're elected officers in the Senate and the House of Reps that are representing the people and technically representing the people's interest. So if their accounts are opaque, and they are the ones that pass the federal budget, I'm not quite sure how we expect people who don't want to be transparent to manage a budget for a country that
Or
makes...
said in another way, people who cannot count their own salary.
Like,
How will they be able to count the money of the
for the
country? It's a counting issue. It's a numeracy.
numeracy.
Maybe we need to beg maths teachers.
So this, and what people are seeing on their screen now is what they say is their salary by law, which is fine. But the issue is that from Shehu Sani to the recent senator, they're saying that they get a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So the recent senator, Shehu Sani, had said 13-point-something million.
As at then.
As at then. I saw an interview with former Senator Abo earlier, who said at his time it was 14.4. And then the senator that spoke recently from Kano said it was 21 million. The challenge is the fact that they are being economical with the truth in how they present it. Your salary by law is set. But then, in a sense, it's almost as if the National Assembly then shares money that nobody is accountable for.
Prayers.
Prayers, yes, indeed. Alerts. Because they are running costs that are meant to be retired. You're meant to say, this is what I did, this is what I did, but they get it as, and so for them, in ignorance, they call it an allowance because they're not required to retire it. And so when citizens say this is their salary, you can't really blame citizens because they themselves are saying, they give us this money, and nobody is asking us to account for it. So as far as I'm concerned, this is my monthly allowance.
But I think you say beyond figure, there's something fundamentally wrong.
Yeah.
If the account of the Commonwealth cannot be clear to us,
Exactly.
there is something dangerous
Precisely.
about that. Because it's not like the senators or the House of Rep, they don't trade. They can't say, may God bless your day. It's fixed amount that comes in. We should be able to know that whatever happens, this is the total amount they can get for a year, and this is what they're going to be
Anyway,
doing.
minus when the budget is not padded. Because
you go.
that's
That's a
another
separate- that's
that's
also-
a separate
issue.
conversation. Let's
But also, I just wanted to land because the interview with former Senator Abo, what he said that I thought was interesting and also very disingenuous, is that even the 14 million wasn't enough for him because the demands from his constituency for school fees, for medical bills, and he was saying it is as if he was doing them a favor.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if there were proper schools and if there were hospitals that worked, you wouldn't have to pay. Why is that not what you are trying to do rather than saying the 40? Because he said 40 million was not enough because he had to make these payments.
I think those are the kind of fundamental changes we need to look at. Nobody expects under normal circumstances for a teacher to feed the students. We need to stand in a place where we know legislators are there to legislate. No council, no constituency project, no charity, no philanthropy. No, just legislate.
Okay, very good. If Elijah Abo says it's not enough, maybe we should jolly well increase it for the
Contribute
dudes.
to it.
Let's talk about something very important, the back and forth, the PID-esque situation we had in the course of the week. We've got two former governors in Ogun State that have come out to say, oh, this particular Chinese company, they're just very fraudulent. They wanted to play fast one in the state, but they're going to stand in solidarity with Nigeria to fight that this should never have been the case in the first place and all of that. I mean, can you start by talking to me about this Kafkaesque kind of madness
Situation where
that happens,
you're looking left and right.
Yeah.
And everybody's innocent, but we're all confused.
Yeah.
So in effect, the governors are saying, don't mind them. Very pedestrian way of dealing with, with national issues. They don't mind them attitude. But let us start by saying it's a good thing that the governors are united in. They're offering to help, that we should help, we should defend Nigeria. It's not kind of strange patriotism as if we were playing football or something like that. They're willing to help the situation. But I think whatever happens, we need to do two things. One is follow very well what is the true case with the Chinese people. A lot of people have their opinions already because unfortunately or fortunately, the governors have track record of some behavior. So it is easy for people to say, it happened to me as well. And mind you, some people are saying that already. There's a tweet by Patrick Tony that, mentioned that Governor Mosu has done that to him himself. And he said something very interesting. He did acknowledge that they have personal relationship. And he said, if he's done that to friends, imagine what he has done to enemies, hired or to unknown people. That is important. But I also think that we as a people need to demand that an audit is done of how that process was managed. There's something vexatious about somebody managing the affairs of a state that comes to say, oh, they lied to me. Because really, you don't take people's word for it. And I want people, to really take this to themselves personally. Anybody who has had to deal with government office in Nigeria will know that when they want to do things with you, you will think we have the most efficient thing in the world. They ask you for this document, that document, make life difficult for you, come back again. Sometimes they don't take letters from you when you submit them because the date is wrong. They don't take letters from you because you wrote one location instead of the other when the office is the office. You can see that we have a bureaucratic system that is not commonsensical, but is very keen on the comma of the law. So it baffles you then where these same people who will be dealing with traders, who they demolish their store, refuse to grant people certificate of occupancy, ask you for so many things, will now be lax when it comes to matter of millions of nairas or dollars in this case. So that is the wrong thing. I think if the present administration, starting from the state to the federal government, and above all the people, if we're serious and want a bright future, we need to demand a very clear audit, not to punish, at least not solely to punish, but to guarantee a better future. We need to have a sense of, after this, never again should we find ourselves in this situation. And governors also need to have a sense of continuum of government. If a government, federal, state, or local government, we need to start adding them now so we get used to them. If somebody before you has agreed to something, it is automatic that you are committed to that. If you're going to change it, it will be a big case. You have to pass a law. You have to warn all those people involved to say that we are disowning this policy. As you can see, I'm giving them a leeway because we know that you can never say never to everything. Something might change. But generally, the idea is that there is a continuum. The other thing must be said is this. These Chinese people, or this Chinese firm, as I most better to say, wrong or right they are, they've taught the world the lesson that you can get Nigerians outside Nigeria. And we should be very careful about that. I am telling investors that, you see, don't worry, if you don't get us there, you can get it there. It's a good thing, but it's a scary thing because now they know. My suspicion, because the market is like a gossip place, it's about the news. A lot of people will be trying to see how they can get Nigerian government on other deals because this has set a precedent that we need to be careful of.
But truth has to be said. It's not new.
No.
They've always gotten Nigeria outside
Nigeria, yes.
The Cement Amada case, the case dragged on. We all know even some of the judgment passed by Lord Denning.
Yes.
It became a very big classical case up till the 1980s.
The case study thing, yes.
In fact, we have never recovered from part of that
thing.
Cement Amada case. Our international reputation totally in tatters.
Tatters, yes.
We have not learned, have we?
I'm not really sure how to begin, but I think it's just the fundamental point that he's making around how our elected officials see government assets and see contracts, not in terms of the nation or the state or whatever it is that you're signing on behalf of, but almost as if you are doing a personal deal and that you can renege on it if you choose to because you don't feel like it. And also the challenge we have in the transition from one administration to another. So he's the current governor, he signs agreements which are binding. He signed on behalf of the state. I then come in because I don't like him. I decide that I will not honor the agreement. That's one side of it. And in a sense, there are almost no consequences. Because we cancel it and nobody says anything. And I mean, Professor Otomi's tweet is interesting because I'm not sure if this story hadn't come out with Amosu in it, if he would ever have shared his story. And so we have a lot of those as well, where these things happen and either for the people that are involved or people being too traumatized to say anything, we don't hear the stories.
Yes,
they
just take it on the chin and
keep
cry in the rain.
Exactly. And so, but the challenge of those things is that it becomes par for course because it just keeps happening and nobody pays. Now, Amosu is going to be hard pressed to either not respond to Professor Utomi. I don't know that he has. But then there is...
They don't mind him.
Well, he could, but I think maybe that's one person. But imagine if maybe 10 other people come out. It'll be hard to say don't mind them. And that's the truth, because we have to get to a point which we've lost
like
significantly.
A rape case.
Yeah, but
it's not coming out. They did it to me
not
too.
even that. But where there's a bit, we go to an era where we have some shame.
Yes.
where your name is being maligned and your children are asking you questions that, did this really happen? Obviously, it's not every child that will care, but I think I think we still have enough that some people care enough, be it your wife, be it your children, that will ask that, Daddy, did you really do this? And we need to get back to that point. And we can't get to that point if people don't speak. And so as bad as it is and as embarrassing as it should be for a country, for your national assets to be taken over by private company because an elected official who people put trust in violated an agreement, it's even worse when there's like a litany of examples that are behind.
And what even shocks me the most about, if we're dabbling into the Professor Patutomi case, is the fact that things are done in such a way that it now involves you calling a higher party leader authority in. So can't individuals that don't know anybody can't just walk up to a governor and say, okay, I have investors here on the surface of things and get things.
No, but on the basis of contracts. And I think that's one of the things that, I mean, love her or dislike her, that obviously Kwesilik's time as Madam Due Process, that one of those were some of the testimonies of her time, that without knowing anyone, you followed the proper process and you will get a government contract because you checked the right boxes. But as you said, you've now got it to the point where I'm begging people to honor a contract that a state governor signed. Like how I don't even know how.
Another twist in the conversation is, what are even the credentials of this jet? Is it the same jet we're talking about?
That we have sold? No, we want to sell?
Or the new one? Or which jet is it in the first place?
Like
because this was the same. This is the same people a couple of minutes ago told us that these jets were bad, we needed to get a new one. Have they gone ahead, or is this another palliative service? What is happening here?
Palliative service for jets.
Oh yeah. Because we're in a country of palliatives.
Have to repair them and keep them. No, it's a very good question actually. Are they the old jets or the new ones?
But I think no.
But it's a simple question. Are they old or new?
Yeah, are they old or the new? That is the problem. The fact that we have to speculate about this question.
Exactly.
It's another index. It's another indication of how transparency and accountability is bad. We need to be able to very clearly know for a fact that this is the jet that they're talking about. Because I've heard some people say, no, it's a new one. I've heard some people say they took it for repair. And you know, these things...
but they told us that those jets were not to be repaired. That's why they said they were going to get a new one.
So it now turns out they're repairable or they're
I don't know. And in the midst of all of this...
maybe we should just leave it for the time and walk away.
After the emergency, in the midst of all, after the emergency, the president still took another jet, to Equatorial Guinea where he went recently. And now the French have said that, okay, I think they've been able to have us intervene. The Chinese said out of goodwill, they're going to give us this jet for the president to fly to France. I mean, it's just all a big pocket of embarrassment.
So
we're now at the mercy of a Chinese firm, a sovereign nation?
This might be a spy to our future.
If you handle your things badly, this is what happens.
That's a very strong point. You know, if you handle your things badly, bad things will happen to you. Sure. Life is a haircut. You get a bad one, you look good. You look bad.
It's quite unfortunate.
You know, there's this Benishole quote in Yoruba. I don't want to go there. Let's talk about judicial salaries. I mean, we've been advocating for this for a while. Probably we think that if we give more money to the judiciary, we're going to have less shenanigan in the judiciary, because, I mean, we can talk constantly as regards ex partes, cases here and there from the judges. 300% increase, kudos or kumbaya, President Tinubu?
Well, let me wade into this matter of the judiciary. I believe in the theory that says pay the judiciary well, isolate them from the issues of the world, and you get a judiciary that has less shenanigans, raises their credibility and their authority, and have a very rigorous selection process in choosing who joins the judiciary. That is my general position. So based on that, logically, I should be happy that they're increasing the salary of the judiciary. But there is something...
Illogically.
Logically.
But illogically. Let's go illogically.
Let's go illogically. Well, it's not just illogically. It's just factually, in this historical moment, I believe this is the wrong time to increase the salary of the judiciary.
Really?
Because the judiciary has a low time popularity rate. They're not seen as the beacon of justice. They're not seen... I mean... I've not heard the new CGN speak before, but the ones that left, that one made me sleep. They don't look like the people you look up to. You know, if you, whether you practice or not, if you've studied law, the idea you have of the judiciary, these people who are super partes, the idea that the law is the last bus stop of everything, you know, the interpretation of the world, the code to relationship, the poetry of how we relate, and again, a step before God. If you have this idea of what the judiciary should be in society, you will not, in knowledge and conscience, want to increase the salary of the Nigerian judiciary. Whether they're accused rightly or falsely, anybody who has a pulse of Nigerian society should know that the judiciary are not seen at what they ought to be. Here is my proposal. While I understand that they need more money, I think it should not be the first on the list. I think maybe we should do reforms first, or at least this their salary increase should have come with reform. If I were president of Nigeria today, what I would say is this: we're going to reform the judiciary, and after that, we're going to weed out the bad ones, keep the good ones, and pay them more.
I want to ask you an interesting question before I come to you.
Yes.
What do you think Caesar's wife will have said about our judiciary?
Aha, here's the thing. I think Caesar's wife will say, don't get involved in this thing, because they would think you're benefiting from it.
So,
and thank you for such a question that put me on the spot.
And it was a twist, obviously, from, Caesar's wife is supposed to be above board, I'm coming to you as regards this.
Right.
You play in the civil advocacy space. You see a lot of people thrown in jail, protesters thrown in jail, all sorts of reasons. We can't get through the rigmarole of the judicial system, and we have a lot of challenges with it. Then the pat on the back is 300% increase.
And that's an interesting way to frame it. And I think it kind of aligns with what he's saying, that given the pulse of the nation and the fact that citizens don't see the judiciary as being above board, what they now hear is that you've increased their salaries. Ideally, because of what they earn and the circumstances, yes, we've increased minimum wage, so technically they should be beneficiaries. But I think increasing salaries without balancing that with consequences or repercussions of bad behavior, quote unquote, doesn't quite do justice to the notion of a reform. And you put that also in the context of the fact that, is it from the FCT minister to the president of the country, their role and their relationship with the judiciary over the years does ask a lot of questions, if I want to put it that way. I mean, one of the first things Wike did in Abuja was to build a new appeal court. In the grand scheme of things, is that really urgent, important, needed? I say no. But if in sort of sorting, if I want to use the word, in sort of sorting out the judiciary, and then I think over the last 1 year, there have been a lot of cases of nepotism, brother, sister, cousin, daughter in different positions being elevated in the courts. And then you've had judges behaving badly, but no repercussions. I mean, there's a long list, but one that at least that stands out for me more recently is the attempt to remove the Emir of Kano by a judge that was on holiday in the US and supposedly signed an order. How he did that signing, I'm not quite sure. But silence, nothing has happened to him. And so when you have cases...
He's even moved on to the higher position.
Oh, that's right. I think that was, as we like to say, his pat on the back was a promotion. Yeah. Exactly. So if that's... Thank you for reminding me. So if that's the...
In fact, he was in transition then when that happened, when that judgment
it was on. Yeah. And so that wasn't stopped. Yeah. So would the ideal thing not have been to stop that, to actually kind of investigate how did you give such a judgment? But that didn't happen.
But he came back and defended the judgment robustly.
Yes,
but yeah, you can
do it
from anywhere.
But without seeing any documents in the middle of exactly in the middle of the
people,
night.
To stick to the principle of freedom.
But I think let's even stop on that for a minute. He came back and defended it robustly because he was asked publicly. So when I'm talking about nothing happened, there wasn't a judicial process to review the process of that judgment. Like how, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it was done at 6 p.m. at night and anyway, the circumstances of that and other cases that are not investigated, but you promote people and increase their salaries, does not communicate that we recognize that there is a problem with our judiciary.
And I think very importantly, one thing to be said, there's some very simple thing that can be done and could have been done actually. All you need is somebody to state in 1 or 2 lines, less than 25 words, to say that from today on in Nigeria, any case that is before one judge, the pronouncement of that judge should be considered by any other judge that has that case in front of him. You don't need to, it doesn't take a lot, just an Excel sheet. Any case, just log it in, and anybody from a Google sheet can log in, check that
Really,
case there.
in a country where we do not, I'm not a pessimist, please, in a country where we do not have documentation that the records of Ganduje were burnt in the court, and they said that's the whole of it, you know. So we don't have documentation.
Well, that's what I'm telling them
no
to do.
cloud
Save
services.
it in the cloud, not papers.
Really? You think the judiciary
burn whatever? People were just mischievous.
No, but you know why we use paper.
Yeah.
If you save something in a cloud, you cannot
claim it's
burn
burnt,
it.
and snakes cannot eat
Anyway,
it.
some people's records were still burnt in the Lagos courts, and we've forgotten about it today.
That's it.
And we've
Papers.
moved on.
And maybe part of this, their increase, they should take away 20% and put it for digitalization.
No, that's what.
Or add that to it if they want.
Something historic is about to happen as we get into the new week. So it's a look in the new week. We're having, Kamala Harris emerge. It's going to be her convention, the Democratic Party convention. She emerged after Joe Biden did win the primaries, but he had to step down for her to come up. So it's the first of its kind. It wasn't like the Hillary Clinton case where she went through the primaries and she emerged at the convention. So they are going out to Chicago. They're having it all planned out. What do you think her chances will be? The next couple of days we'll have, the Democratic National Convention. She's done well in the polls. She's not been able to cover ground in some of the Sun Belt states. She has a big arsenal for ads. In fact, $370 million I hear will be spent on advertisements, and she's fighting toe-to-toe with Trump that says everything crazy about her. Number one, I'd like to ask you, the attacks and the trolls as regards sexism, race in this campaign as we go into the Democratic National Convention.
Well, I think it shows Trump as old, not aged or elderly, old, obsolete, shows him desperate and also mean. But really, that is who Trump is, because Trump is a narcissist, opportunistic, and lying. God bless who he is. That's Trump. And but you see, we keep talking about Trump. My worry are the people who follow him. We don't like to talk about that in democracy. We always like to
He's
talk
got
about
a lot of fans in Nigeria. So you worry for those people?
I do.
They can cut you out. Just say anything against Trump, they start to...
I'm not very worried about them, how they
and they're mostly the Christians because they feel he's like from Zion.
They're not Christian, they're churchgoers.
Really?
Ouch.
Yes, because really, you cannot really say in conscience and for Christ, you follow somebody who's a liar, who's a bully. Let us be clear about this thing. I think it's time we start to make a difference.
He's got a spiritual edge to him.
Get what? I tell you what.
Especially with Nigerian Christians.
Do you know the only true thing about Trump is that he does not claim to be spiritual. He does not claim to be a Christian. He does not claim to be a follower of Christ. What he says is Christians should follow him. And if churchgoers have a bit of brain, if they can't tell the difference, then it's up to them. Then maybe they really deserve it.
He defends Israel, so that sentiment is apt for him.
But you're quite right in terms of the optics. So yes, he defends Israel. Number two is against abortion, which is very big with a lot of Christians.
Roe versus Wade,
And then number three, he's very much anti-LGBT as much as he can. So you're right. And I think you find that these constraints within the evangelical community, because abortion rights and LGBTQ issues are major issues for them. And it's almost as if they're blinders to every other thing. And I like the way you framed it, that he doesn't, I don't know, I think that he was asked, for example, what his favorite Bible verse was.
He couldn't quote it, he didn't have one. He was
answer.
worried about what to say. He realized he doesn't read the Bible. And he has never pretended to read it, but please go on.
No. And I think that's the thing, that in terms of who he is, he doesn't lie about who he is. Yeah. But Christians project who he is because of his position on two things that are very important to them, and then put on blinders for everything else that might be a challenge. But Kamala has a historic opportunity. I think money is not a problem. Number one.
She's raising a lot of money.
Very quickly.
And she's laughing a lot.
And she's laughing and understands the power of storytelling. Yes. Because she's not cowering. Trump is a bully. Yeah. And she's very clear that if you if you are man enough, I am a match for you, and I like that narrative.
The bringing on attitude
that she has.
Yes.
And I think what's also very interesting is that I've noticed there's some pictures of some billboards in some swing states of the words that Vance used to describe Trump.
Yeah.
At a point in time, Vance called Trump America's Hitler.
Yeah.
And so now that's a billboard reminding people that this is how your vice president described you at a point in time. So I think it'll be a very interesting campaign in terms of narratives, words, and how the different candidates are pit against each other in what
and
sort
I
of
think
what matters.
this needs to be said regarding Trump and beyond Trump. Christians need to understand that the message of Christ is compassion,
and love,
character, love, and that integrity should matter.
Yeah.
Thank you both for your time. I must have to say thank you to you because both of you obviously didn't fall out of a coconut tree. Right, that's been it. Watching This Day Live today. If you got the Kamala pun there, that's for you. The Sunday Talk Show. I'm Rufai Aseni from the entire team here in Lagos. Is bye for now. Thank you so much for watching.